week says the Maple Leafs go for another win over Vancouver, and the Raptors are in Met tonight. Sports 15. A pullback on Wall Street while the charge ahead on Bay Street continues after markets reached record highs to start the session, and Tesla drives the price of Bitcoin through the roof. Business at 26.
Tesla's being investigated by the Chinese or some called into questioning or some shit.
On the ones, here's Carrie Prunskis.
This report is brought to you.
Remain in your units. Do not use the elevators or stairs. Let's go get coffee, damn it. And I heard the China guy rapping on the commercial for the mall. It fucking, damn it.
DonValleyNorthToyota.com. And now with the forecast.
How will I ever find that recording?
Chinaman rapping. Colder than the temperature indicates.
Fairview Mall or
today,
some
chance of flurries. Snow moves in late tonight, overnight, less than 2 centimeters. Today's guaranteed high, -6. Right now in downtown Toronto, sunshine, -7, wind chill of -13. 680 news time, 2:02.
With the provincial state of emergency set to expire tomorrow, the Premier, along with his health minister, were on tap today to provide a path to reopening, although they're saying don't call it a reopening.
680's Irene Precklet joins us live with the very latest. Irene. And Sarah, if you thought done in or getting her haircut was going to happen soon in the GTA, you would be wrong. The province has announced a gradual reopening starting on Wednesday, but it's for 3 areas in the eastern part of the province that move into the green zone. It will be a week later that most of the rest of the province will move into the color-coded system. But for Toronto, Peel, and York, it's February 22nd before the stay-at-home order will end. Premier Ford says he understands people are tired of the restrictions.
But folks, just try to hang in there a little longer. We will get through it. We really will.
According to the plan, the province will have an emergency break in place to allow the government to quickly move a region into lockdown. Another change, the gray zone will now allow previously closed businesses to reopen with a capacity limit of 25%. Reporting live, Irene Precklet, 680 News.
You're listening to Toronto's only all-news radio station. This is 680 News. Well, several businesses are going to be reopening across the country today as some provinces begin to loosen their pandemic restrictions. Now, 680's Momin Qureshi is taking a look at how that is happening outside of Ontario. He joins us live now with more. Momin?
So, Steve, a couple of provinces across the country are going through a little bit of a reopening window in Alberta. If you live there, you can do some in-person dining again with some restrictions. There are also one-on-one fitness classes and trainings at gyms. There's also allowed for some minor sports lessons to begin. However, they're saying with minor sports they can't play full games. But what they can do is hold some practices and things like that in Quebec. If you want a haircut, you can get one. Museums are reopening, as are non-essential stores. Now, this is all happening because provinces like that have high numbers, but they are in a steady decline the way they are here in Ontario. However, Canada's top doctor, Dr. Trippz, says it's crucial that strong measures are kept in place.
He shut off the fire alarm while he's still doing this. Hold on, they're still investigating.
Putting out a word of caution there as things start to reopen up in some provinces across the country. Reporting live, I'm Momin Qureshi.
Well, as more students return to in-person classes today, Ontario's opposition is looking ahead to March break. 680's Richard Southern tells us the NDP leader is pushing for it to go ahead as planned.
NDP leader Andrea Horwath says she believes students, parents, and teachers are burning out, particularly those that have been engaged in online learning. And it's for that reason she's calling on the government to go ahead with the March break as planned, starting on March 15th.
That March break is going to be just an important opportunity for people to be able to just breathe for a moment.
But she says the government should give some clear and concise directions about what you can and can't do during March break.
We can't be having a rerun of what happened last March break when Doug Ford said, okay, everybody go out and have fun on March break, take your trips.
Education unions also believe March break should go ahead as planned, but we've heard from some top doctors who say the government should consider canceling it to help mitigate the spread of the virus. The education minister to make his decision this week. I'm Richard Southern.
Well, Ontario, by the way, reporting 1,265 new cases of COVID today, with 33 additional deaths.
The problem is you think that's low.
Elliott says there were 421 41 new cases in Toronto, 256 in Peel, and 130 in York region. The province says it conducted just over 28,300 tests. In total, over 900 people are in hospital.
Well, as early as this week, Canada could get another shot in its COVID arsenal. With all the details, here's our Parliament Hill reporter, Cormac McSweeney.
With 20 million doses already pre-ordered of the AstraZeneca vaccine, Health Canada is expected to give the go-ahead for the shot soon. A week and a half ago, it said the decision would be announced in days. But NDP leader Jagmeet Singh not convinced this will be the boost it appears to be. He says the Trudeau government has failed in its vaccination efforts, and approvals won't mean much if we still have supply shortages and no domestic production.
I need to see Justin Trudeau take the serious issue of local production with all seriousness and get it done.
The Greens are calling for greater cooperation and transparency. The Prime Minister says Canada's still on track to have enough vaccines for everyone that wants one by September, and has received assurances from Pfizer and Moderna that despite recent disruptions, they'll still deliver 6 million doses by the end of March. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
Well, health officials in the U.S. are concerned that those Super Bowl celebrations could become super spreaders.
The sound of Super Bowl fans in Tampa, many of them maskless, taking to the streets. Mayor Jane Castor says there's a level of frustration when you see that because of how hard they're working to curb the virus, even distributing 200,000 masks ahead of the game. This comes as the U.S. is making progress in the fight against the virus. The country is reporting fewer than 100,000 daily cases for the first time since the start of November, according to Johns Hopkins University. Meanwhile, this weekend marked 1 year since the first death was reported in the U.S. More than 463,000 have died since. I'm Julie Walker.
And the Australian Open began overnight with Canadian star Bianca Andreescu returning to the court for the first time in 15 months. Here's our Simon Bennett.
The last time we saw her on the court, the WTA finals
same rights with the 25% capacity. Those things are all good and appropriate. We would actually.
Pendant quelques heures, quelques jours.
Ah, ben ça, c'est un beau compliment à faire à un auteur. Hein? Ça ne
Ouais.
m'a pas laissé indifférent.
Ça m'a pas laissé indifférent, mais j'en sors pas joyeux.
With Tori, I called another morning show that you used to host back in the day.
Yeah.
And I was on with you, and man, I was invited to you, man.
I will never forget this. You were great. And I didn't find out until years later. That basically, despite, there's no way you would have, you'd have blown up a breathalyzer.
Oh yeah, I was still drunk when I called into that show.
Largely now vaccinated, the most vulnerable in long-term care, but as someone who has parents in their 80s who've still not been vaccinated, don't happen to be in long-term care, I want to make sure, particularly with new, more virulent variants coming out into the virus community, that we're putting those extra steps in place, because I not only want to reopen
of carbon monoxide. This sound warns you there's an electrical hazard. In case you missed it, there is no sound. If you had an electrical hazard in your home, wouldn't you want to know about it? Count on Bernie Homestead.
Well, actually, they will not hesitate to close things back down again. But are we clear? Do we have a metric at all here, Rocco, when it comes to when this emergency break might be applied and businesses, unfortunately, might have to be forced to take a step back and shut down again?
It's not clear, and that is hugely frustrating and dangerous, because people need notice, they need clarity wherever possible. And also, the break, again, reemphasizes this sense of reacting to the crisis as opposed to actually managing it. And to manage it, we need far more testing. The bottom line is, particularly in the concentrated cases in the GTA, in Peel, in York, some half of the cases we're not currently able to track and trace. So when you have incomplete information,
excuses won't stop the spread of the deadly COVID-19 virus.
Until we all get the vaccine, stay home as much as possible.
We all get the vaccine, eh? Holy shit.
COVID-19 for more
You
information.
get the vaccine, I don't need to have it.
Ontario.
All right, and happening right now, let's go live to the city of Toronto for the COVID briefing.
Hey, I feel like shit. You need to smoke some weed right now, damn it.
Begin here in the city of Toronto in earnest to begin the reopening process. That time, in Toronto's case, is not yet, though having the elements of a plan is needed and welcome. The number of new cases is going in the right direction. The 7-day rolling average of new cases was 892 a month ago.
It's going down today to 1,200 instead of 80.
That's a big improvement. But let's not forget, it stood at 47 last September and was 15 cases a day on a rolling average on August the 1st. So we all need to keep doing the right thing because COVID-19 is still here and the new variants, which can spread faster, are here as well. Our medical experts who have guided us well through uncharted waters, they say these variants are the real thing. And that means great care and caution as we even consider the right time to reopen here in a city of 3 million people. You will hear more about the variants from Dr. Davila in a moment. Her comments should cause us all, yes, to plan for reopening, but actually to do so with great care. The more we follow well-known public health advice to stay home, keep our distance, keep to ourselves, and wear masks, the faster we will be able to reopen and stay open. Our first important priority is to work with the province and the school boards to get our schools open safely starting next week. On that, we all agree. Toronto Public Health is all over that. While we're doing that, we will continue to work within provincial mandates and rely on expert public health advice to get the rest of our city, including smaller businesses, reopened safely when the time comes. I am supportive of an approach which recognizes that Toronto has experienced and continues to experience some more entrenched challenges with COVID-19 and may require some additional time. Our experience with the variants, in respect of which there is also still a long list of unknowns, may also require additional time. I am also supportive of the province's plan once reopening takes place, insofar as they help address some of the unfairness that has resulted from big businesses being open and not smaller ones. These are things that should be part of the plan when the time comes for reopening. We can't be in lockdown forever, but we have to make sure we do everything possible to have a safe reopening and to try as much as possible to avoid having to ask businesses or schools to close their doors again. That sentiment was shared in a meeting today with the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area mayors and chairs. We all agreed that we should be careful in our reopening so that when places are able to reopen, they're able to stay open. We believe this will be best accomplished through the use of consistent standards, consistently applied based on prevailing local circumstances. The mayors and chairs also stressed once again the need for a safe Restart 2.0 agreement. The reopening in the GTHA will be crucial to the successful restart of Ontario's economy and Canada's economy as a whole when the time comes. This week, I'll be taking part in a number of meetings with federal officials, including the Prime Minister, as part of the National Big City Mayors Caucus, and I will be reiterating the need for the federal and provincial governments to work together in order to come forward with funding for municipalities through a renewed Safe Start agreement. As cities work with their 2021 budgets, the vaccine distribution, and ongoing efforts to fight the pandemic, including the variants, it is absolutely vital that they have the funding commitments necessary to help finance their continued response, particularly in light of the drastic revenue shortfalls once again this year, 2021, in areas such as transit fares. A completed Safe Restart 2.0 agreement will give Toronto and all municipalities the stability they need to support the safe reopening and to focus on a strong economic recovery.
What exactly did you do?
In advance of this week's meetings, I have made this point directly in constructive conversations I had with many key federal and provincial leaders. Reviewing this agreement early in 2021 will be the best way to make sure municipalities can continue to respond to this unprecedented pandemic and the
variants and continue to make much-needed investments in major capital projects, which create jobs and will help to renew vital infrastructure that will be crucial to any successful economic recovery. I look forward to reporting to you on those meetings and the progress made in those meetings later in the week or early next. And now I would ask Dr. Davila to offer her report for today.
Thank you, Mayor Tory, and good afternoon. Today, I am reporting 421 new cases of COVID-19. 414 people are in hospital and 94 are in the ICU. Sadly, 13 people have died. With regard to data, the transition to the province's system is now largely complete, and we plan to resume full reporting shortly, like later this afternoon.
Wait. You're not even reporting proper numbers
there remains
right
the
now,
possibility of some adjustments or some updates to data as a result of the transfer, which for the most part has gone very well, given the size and the complexity of this task. Today, we are in a transition from one pandemic to another.
What are you talking about?
A transition to a new pandemic. It was inevitable the variants of concern would emerge in Toronto. The UK variant, B117, is confirmed. Screening indicates the South African variant, B1351, and the Brazilian variant, P1, are here too. I take the view
What's the 501
that it is
YV2?
important
What's that one?
to
I
see
thought that
the
was South African.
circumstances for what they are. We are in a position of great uncertainty with respect to variants, but what we know is alarming. I understand the value of preparing for the time we can lift restrictions. From a public health perspective in Toronto, that time is not now. Decisions to reopen do not come with guarantees, except that cases of COVID-19 will rise when we interact again more frequently. We've seen this before. There's no reason to believe it will be different this time. In fact, there's probably less. If, as expected, variants of concern become the dominant strain in Toronto, there is an even greater likelihood of case counts increasing, given increased transmissibility is proven by science to be true. Last week, I spoke to projections about COVID-19 deaths if transmission increased going forward. Here is a more detailed look at that in work provided by the Centre for Disease Modelling at York University. The model examines the levels of death at various levels of virus transmission. It is based on transmission rates as seen in Toronto in mid to late January. On that basis, according to the model, with unchanged transmission rates, the death toll for Toronto would rise to almost 5,500 by this May. If transmission increased by 10%, the model finds Toronto's death toll would rise to slightly more than 9,200 fatalities. If transmission increases by 20%, we would expect 15,865 deaths by May of this year. So far in the pandemic, we've seen a little more than 2,500 deaths in total. Rising cases is an inevitable consequence of mixing,
You mean in Toronto?
particularly if we do not take steps to protect ourselves from the spread of the
People
virus.
mixing with each other or mixing
Recall
the air?
that
What
at
do you mean
Thanksgiving
mixing?
and Christmas
How
last
good is
year,
it?
we saw corresponding rises in case counts afterwards. Illness, strain on the healthcare system, strain on healthcare workers, strain on the economy. The
There is also the return to school to consider in this context, which is now a little more than a week away. So we will face a real challenge when presented with the opportunity to move about again with reduced restrictions, but without more protection from COVID-19. Add to that the real chance there is actually greater risk of infection because the variants of concern make COVID-19 even easier to catch and easier to spread.
Twice as transmissible.
COVID-19 and its mutant variations are out there, seeking a host through which to live and through which to spread to the next person and the next person and the next. There is always a lot under our control as individuals. One of these things is understanding and accepting realities. The threat of COVID-19 has not gone away. And unfortunately, a lifting of the restrictions will not make it go away. With that, I'll now turn it over to Chief Pegg to deliver his remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Davila, and good afternoon. Our coordinated enforcement teams continue to work diligently to enforce the regulations relating to COVID-19. The city has taken formal enforcement action more than 2,100 times to date. This weekend, our enforcement officers continued to monitor compliance with the Reopening Ontario Act. As a result, 3 charges were laid against the owner and operator of a cosmetic store. Our officers also proactively inspected 236 bars and restaurants, with no violations being observed and no enforcement action being required.
Phone is ringing from women saying,
over the course of the weekend, our enforcement teams responded to 122 complaints relating to large gatherings on private property and in private residences. Following response and investigation by our municipal law enforcement officers and Toronto police officers, 37 charges were laid. This weekend, Toronto Police also responded to a number of protests, resulting in 6 charges being laid under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act, and a further 6 charges being laid under the Criminal Code.
Yeah, I gotta hear the question.
I would like to extend my thanks to each of our enforcement officers who do their best to meet the challenges associated with COVID-19 regulations each day. Finally, we are aware of a small number of businesses that have indicated their intent to open this Thursday in contravention of the provincial orders requiring them to remain closed. The city's integrated enforcement team, including municipal licensing and standards, Toronto Public Health, and Toronto police officers, are actively monitoring this situation and are prepared to respond as required. We will take appropriate enforcement action against any business that operates in contravention of the regulations governing the operation of non-essential businesses, as we have done throughout the pandemic. We know that the vast majority of businesses and residents continue to do the right thing in support of our collective public health. By complying with the public health regulations, we save lives and protect the capacity of our healthcare system. Finally, I remind everyone that toronto.ca/COVID-19 is the best and most reliable source of information relating to COVID-19 in Toronto. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. Just a reminder to reporters to please unmute yourself before asking a question. We also have a number of senior staff on the line should you have detailed questions, including the Toronto Police Service. We'll go first to Matt Bingley from Global News. Go ahead, Matt.
Hi, good afternoon. Dr. Davila, just speaking about your concerns about variants of concern, assuming that Toronto does get into the gray zone, I guess it would be, in a couple of weeks, that would allow for more people within grocery stores, supermarkets, and I'm wondering if you think that's a good idea for Toronto based on what you're seeing with how these VOCs are spreading.
So, Matt, as I've indicated in my remarks, I don't believe that now is the time
for us in Toronto, given our circumstances, to relax public health measures. I think we need to be very concerned around that which we're seeing with COVID-19's variants, particularly given what we're learning from what has happened in other jurisdictions. I do think that things do change very quickly when it comes to COVID, and I think we need to monitor very, very carefully and observe what we're seeing on the ground and make the best decisions, applying the best available evidence, the best available science, in order to act in a fashion that is consistent with the best interests of the people of Toronto, given that we are in the midst of a pandemic and that we have to concern ourselves with what influences and impacts on public health.
So to follow up on that, do you look at that timetable of February 22nd as being too early for, allowing 25% capacity in retail stores?
Matt, I think it's difficult to talk about particular timelines, and I would encourage people not to look necessarily at certain timelines. We know that what we want to see is ongoing reduced transmission of virus, and we'd like to see that as low as possible. I think that when we look at the experiences of other jurisdictions that have been a little ahead of us in respect of dealing with variants of concern and having variants of concern within their environments, my understanding is that they've said, extra caution is absolutely needed, given that the measures do have impact, but just given that increased transmissibility associated with many of these variants, the issue is that you have to really be extra vigilant around self-protection measures and public health measures in order to continue to reduce the transmission and the spread of virus in the community.
Thank you. We'll go next to Mark Douglas from 680 News. Mark, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Ross. Dr. Davila, just to follow up a little bit and expand perhaps a bit on Matt's question there, if the variants, as you say, are going to constitute some kind of whole new kind of pandemic, should we even be tossing around any dates for starting to reopen?
So, as I indicated in my remarks, I think that we need to think about reopening, and I think it's a wise thing, and I think it's understandable to speak of reopening, to plan for it, because that day will come. And it's best to have lots of opportunity to review what safer reopening looks like in the context of a pandemic. We are, however, as I indicated, approaching a new pandemic, transitioning to a different phase and to a new pandemic altogether. And we know that the experience in other jurisdictions tells us that extra caution needs to be applied. But that being said, I think that it's quite reasonable and quite understandable for us to engage in good conversation and to start planning what safer reopening looks like, such that when that time arrives, we're better prepared and better able to implement in a very thoughtful and coherent fashion.
Thank you. And for a follow-up to both yourself, Dr. Davila, and to you, Mayor Tory, the Premier and the Cabinet spoke today about their emergency break that they'd be ready to pull if the COVID numbers go the wrong way during the reopening plan. I'd like to know if the City of Toronto has its own kind of emergency break that you could pull independent of any action the province might want to take or avoid taking.
Well, why don't I start off and then I'll let the mayor speak to that. I don't know, and I can't predict exactly what will happen, and therefore I can't really predict with any certainty what particular actions might be taken or should be taken in the future. I can say that as far as I'm concerned, my responsibility to the people of Toronto is to ensure that I'm providing the best possible public health advice and that I'm applying the best available science and evidence to act in a fashion that's consistent with the best interests of the health of Torontonians. That's what I've sought to do throughout the pandemic, and I think the people of Toronto can count on me to do that on an ongoing basis.
And you've been listening to the City of Toronto's briefing here on 680 News. We'll have a full rundown on what the mayor and Dr. Davila had to say coming up in just moments. For Sarah Barrett, I'm Steve Roberts. Have yourself a great afternoon.
Shut up!
680 News time, 2:30.
Yeah.
Toronto's #1 for breaking news, traffic, and weather. This is 680 News.
Good afternoon. This is Monday, the 8th of February. I'm Sljana Tabinzik.
And I'm James Monroe. Here's what's making news for right now.
The Ontario government announces its plan for reopening, and the phased-in approach will see Toronto, Peel, and York wait 2 more weeks under stay-at-home orders.
From Nova Scotia to Quebec to
Well, what does this mean to any of us here, right?
Easing off restrictions and reopening businesses, but Canada's top doctor believes strong measures need to remain in place.
Any questions, or they just cut away?
Another COVID vaccine could get the green light this week. The opposition says it's encouraging news, but the feds still need to fix their failed vaccination plans.
That is why I collect coins
Leafs
and not
Canucks tonight
sand.
from Scotiabank Arena. Rasmus Sandin will make his season debut, and the Raptors continue their road trip against the Grizzlies. Sports 45.
Strong start to the week on financial markets. The TSX down, NASDAQ all at historic highs this afternoon. Business 56.
680 News Time, 2:31.
Traffic and weather together on the ones. Here's Carrie Prenskus.
This report is brought to you by Hakeem Optical. We have a crash in town at the intersection of Ellesmere and McCowan. Eastbound Ellesmere at McCowan, the right lane is blocked, and southbound McCowan at Ellesmere, the left lane is closed. So a bit busy going southbound as you approach Ellesmere. Eastbound traffic seems to be moving okay. On the major routes, we're looking at a problem-free drive. We just have some construction delays on the northbound 427 from the 407 onto the Highway 7 ramp. Still have the 427 closed from Highway 7 to Zenway for long-term road work. We had some earlier road work northbound 400, north of Major Mackenzie to north of Teston. Looks like they've reopened the left lane through that stretch, and a smooth drive on the 401 in both directions. On city streets in East York, eastbound Mortimer, that's still closed from Logan to Pape, all due to a broken water main. And another broken water main in Brampton, that has Center Street shut down both ways from Queen to Church. The winter sale is on now at Hakeem Optical. Save 60% on all Hakeem designer frames, lenses, and coatings when you purchase 2 pair of prescription eyeglasses. Visit HakeemOptical.ca today. And now with the forecast, here's Jill Taylor.
Cold temperatures and a cold week on the way. Chance of flurries, otherwise sun and cloud today. Our guaranteed high just -6. Snow moves in late tonight. Overnight should end around 3 a.m. tomorrow morning. A low -9. For today, the guaranteed high -6.
Sunny skies in downtown Toronto, -7 feels like -13. This is 680 News.
The stay-at-home order that was to expire this week will remain in effect for a while longer, but we're learning more about the Ford government's plan to gradually reopen the economy.
This comes as the province reports more than 1,200 new cases of COVID amid lower testing numbers. 680's Irene Franklin joins us live. Irene.
And James, on Wednesday, 3 areas in eastern Ontario will move out of lockdown and into the color-coded system. The following week, the rest of the province, except Toronto, Peel, and York, will follow suit. Those areas will see stay-at-home orders end February 22nd. Premier Ford says while cases are coming down, we are not out of the woods just yet.
I'm still concerned about these variants. We can't let our guard down now. And let me be clear, if we see the numbers spike again, we're prepared to take further action as necessary.
And that includes an emergency break that can quickly move a region back into lockdown. The province is also changing the rules for the gray zone, including allowing previously closed businesses to reopen with a 25% capacity. Reporting live, Irene Franklin, 680 News. Toronto will be taking a cautious approach towards its eventual reopening. Mayor John Tory says while today's news from the province is a good sign, COVID-19 still poses a significant risk to Torontonians, especially because of the new variants.
COVID-19 is still here, and the new variants, which can spread faster, are here as well. Our medical experts who have guided us well through uncharted waters, they say these variants are the real thing. And that means great care and caution as we even consider the right time to reopen here in a city of 3 million people.
Toronto's Chief Medical Officer of Health says while the variant first found in the UK has been confirmed in the city, preliminary results show the variants from South Africa and Brazil are also now present.
This is 680 News. So Ontario's plans to balance health and the economy stack up against other provinces. 680's Moment Correcci joins us live. Moment.
Well, we know, James, is that several provinces across the country are doing the reopening. Let's go a little bit over to the west. We're in Alberta. They're allowing in-person dining again with some restrictions. They're also allowing fitness training,
a year ago?
gyms.
Well, South Africa's not a country.
Begin, as well as minor sports lessons, but they say
Okay,
with the minor
but
sports,
the virus
they can't
don't
play
give a
games,
fuck.
but they can hold practices and
He's
lessons.
not supposed to be
that type of
calling it
thing
the South
in
African
Quebec.
variant
Personal care
either.
salons, so haircuts, that type of thing is real.
That's
And as
why
are
I
museums
laugh.
and non-essential stores. And if you want to feel a little envious, in Nova Scotia, they can now have spectators at sports events and arts and culture, rehearsals and performances, and retail businesses and fitness facilities can operate at 75% capacity. And now, while all this is happening, Canada's top doctor, Dr. Theresa Tam, says it's crucial that strong measures are kept in place in order to maintain a steady downward trend in COVID cases. So clearly she's issuing a little bit of a word of caution as things start to reopen. Reporting live, I'm Owen Qureshi.
We're awaiting an announcement from Education Minister Stephen Lecce this week about what March break could look like. 680's Richard Southern is here with that story and reaction from the NDP.
NDP leader Andrea Horwath says she'd like to see the government keep the March break intact and for the school holiday to go ahead as planned for March 15th to 19th. She says parents, particularly those who have been helping with online learning, are burnt out.
That March break is going to be just an important opportunity for people to be able to just breathe for a moment, take some downtime, not have to worry about teaching kids or keeping them plugged in online.
The education minister expected to announce this week whether the March break will go ahead as planned. Some have suggested that it could help students keep up with their learning if they're in school for the break. It could help mitigate the spread of the disease as well. Although the head of Ontario's largest teachers union said he's seen no medical evidence to suggest that canceling the break will slow the spread of the virus. I'm Richard Southern.
This is 680 News. As early as this week, Canada could get another shot in the COVID arsenal with another vaccine expected to get approved. But critics say it won't have the intended impact unless the federal government gets its act together.
With 20 million doses already pre-ordered of the AstraZeneca vaccine, Health Canada is expected to give the go-ahead for the shot soon. A week and a half ago, it said the decision would be announced in days. But NDP leader Jagmeet Singh not convinced this will be the boost it appears to be. He says the Trudeau government has failed in its vaccination efforts, and approvals won't mean much if we still have supply shortages and no domestic production.
I need to see Justin Trudeau take the serious issue of local production with all seriousness and get it done.
The Greens are calling for greater cooperation and transparency. The Prime Minister says Canada's still on track to have enough vaccines for everyone that wants one by September and has received assurances from Pfizer and Moderna that despite recent disruptions, they'll still deliver 6 million doses by the end of March. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
This is 680 News. One of America's biggest airlines says it will continue to block the middle seat.
Many months ago, United and American went back to filling middle seats. Southwest gave up blocking middle seats in December. Now, Delta Airlines announcing it will continue blocking middle seats until at least the end of April.
Good. Everybody hates that middle seat.
Customers, and even though it can't
Not
fill
everybody
planes
that
under the
sits
policy,
in
it's what customers
Everybody
want.
that
And while
sits on
passengers
an
may feel
airplane hates
better or
middle
just
seat.
like having an open seat next to them, studies have shown as long as everybody is wearing a mask on board, the COVID transmission is extremely unlikely. Alex Stone, EBC
It hasn't
News.
shown that at all.
We could soon find out what caused
What
the
the fuck
helicopter
are you
crash that
talking
left
about?
Kobe Bryant, his daughter, and 7 others
Just spent
dead last
14
year. The
hours in a
National
plane.
Transportation Safety Board is scheduled
Have
to
to
vote
rebreathe
tomorrow
the
on
same
the
air.
probable cause.
For some
and any
reason, they won't put
recommendations to
HEPA filters
prevent
on
future
airplanes. So
disasters.
maybe they do it, they never
Bryant
clean
and the
them.
others were flying from Orange County to a youth basketball tournament on January
They were
26th.
trying to oppress
2020.
everybody, and they
The
got what
helicopter
they
crashed in
deserve.
thick fog
People
north
get
of
what
Los
they
Angeles.
deserve.
Officials say there was no sign of mechanical failure. They believe the crash was accidental.
Gas prices
So
are
there was
next.
no sign of mechanical
This
failure.
is 680 News. In times like these,
The crash
should
is
more money work even
accidental.
harder
What
for
about the
you?
other 9 people
We
that
think
died?
so.
By the way,
That's
why
why
so
at Duca
many
Credit
people
Union,
with
you get no
helicopter?
fee checking accounts. You also get high interest on deposits and investments and low mortgage rates. Plus, you get to share in the profits. That's the Duca difference. And now, get rates as low as 1.79% on a 5-year fixed mortgage when you switch to Duca. Find out how at mortgage.duca.com. Do more, be more, achieve more with Duca Credit Union. Conditions apply.
Now the 680 News gas price update. And predicting the price will not change at midnight. Will stay at just under $1.18 a liter. Traffic and weather together next.
It took early humans thousands of years to start cooking their food. Today, we're not such a patient bunch. Thankfully, Good Food now has same-day delivery, so you can get delicious, ready-to-cook meals and grocery items like Good Food milk and yogurt without the wait. Good Food, eating evolved. Visit makegoodfood.ca. Certain conditions apply. Greater Toronto only. Details on makegoodfood.ca.
Customers, students, and staff expect a new level of clean. Cintas has the essential products and services to help you carry out cleaning protocols effectively. Cintas performs surface sanitizer and disinfectant spray services to
The delivery guy doesn't seem to care that there's no air in this building. So he never reports it to anybody. But if he gets sick, you're going to have to pay his fucking medical expenses.
They need to keep coming
Not my problem, I don't care. That's what everybody says.
and get ready for the workday.
680 News Time, 241.
Traffic and weather together on the ones. Here's Carrie Prunskis. This report is brought to you by CIBC. Eastbound on the 401, it's getting busy from Kipling and the Express on to the 400 ramp. And we have a new problem on the eastbound 401 approaching Nielsen and the Express.
Skynet knows when people aren't supposed to be getting on planes, and Skynet lets them show up anyway.
And there's no delay, so be careful eastbound 401 as you're approaching Nielsen in the Express. Get into the right-hand lanes ahead of this problem. And I'm going to call MTO right after this report. Actually, they're just moving the cameras right now.
They hadn't even realized they had a variant when South Africa realized they did.
Traffic is getting bunched up in that area.
You want to talk
And
about
they're just zooming that camera in right now. It looks like lane 2 from the left is blocked, possibly a collision here. So another slowdown building westbound 401 as you approach the 427th. Northbound 427, that's heading from the 407 onto the Highway 7 ramp. And on city streets, we have a closure of eastbound Mortimer. It's shut down from Logan to Pate because of a broken water main. And we also have a collision at Ellesmere and McCowan. Lane restrictions eastbound and southbound, but just minor delays there. And in Brampton, Centre Street remains closed from Clinton Church because of a broken water main. Open at CIBC.
Is the McDonald's still open?
$300 plus pay no monthly fee for up to 12 months. That's Everyday Smart from CIBC. And now with the forecast, here's Jill Taylor.
It's a cold start to the week. You need extra layers. Sun and cloud today favoring the sunshine in many areas. There is a slight chance, though, of some flurries. And then we get into the snow late tonight, overnight. Less than 2 centimeters, though, should end by about 3 o'clock tomorrow morning. -9 for the low. Will feel like -12 overnight, so not quite as cold. Tomorrow, some early morning flurries and sun and cloud, -3. For today, the guaranteed high, -6.
Sunny skies in downtown Toronto, -7, feels like -13.
Now, the Dynamic Funds Market Minute to the Business Center. Here's Richard Sullivan.
Well, it is a strong start to the trading week for North American stocks. The TSX in Toronto and the main benchmarks in New York are all at record highs right now. TSX is up 176 points. It's up 1% at 18,312. Historic high for the market. Commodities really helping. Oil up almost $1 to 57.83 the barrel. Quite the uptick as of late for crude oil. Price of gold up $20, $1,833 US the ounce. The Dow is trading up 135 points to 31,283. The S&P is up 1/3%. The Nasdaq is up 67 points. Canadian dollar up 78.41 cents US. At the Business Center, I'm Richard Southern.
When it comes to investing, it's time to consider the alternatives. Dynamic Funds sees diversification differently. Ask a financial advisor how and learn more at dynamic.ca/advice.
Share some happy with McCafe. Right now, you can enjoy a consistently rich, smooth, and delicious medium McCafe premium roast coffee, hot or iced, for $1 plus tax. At participating restaurants for a limited time. Prices exclude delivery.
Experience the peppery, savory McDonald's chicken you crave at breakfast. That's right, the Chicken McMuffin, made with Canadian-raised seasoned chicken. Just $2.99 plus tax until 11 a.m. At participating restaurants, prices exclude delivery.
I'm so over this. I don't even know anyone who's had COVID-19, and it's not like I'm at risk. We don't see many people, just a few neighbors and close friends. It's fine. We wear a mask and everything. We're really careful.
Excuses won't stop the spread of the deadly COVID-19 virus. Until we all get the vaccine, stay home as much as possible. Visit ontario.ca/COVID-19 for more information. Paid for by the Government of Ontario.
You remove the people from the equation. There's nothing wrong with that any of the cities. Not the people that live, not just like everybody lives there. That's not what I mean.
Downtown Toronto in cold, a wind chill reading of -12. Good afternoon. I'm Sljana Tominzik.
And I'm James Monroe. Here's what's making news right now.
The Ford government announcing starting Wednesday will begin reopening the economy, but the premier says he may use a so-called emergency break.
You said all weekend it would be today.
In case numbers on February 15th, all regions except
you had a leak. You had a source.
COVID restrictions
This is how you know Dougie's
will make the transition depending on daily cases on February 22nd. The city of Toronto will be taking an extra cautious approach in its reopening. Chief Medical Officer of Health Dr. Edward DeVilla says we're transitioning from one pandemic into another as the UK, South Africa, and Brazil variants of COVID emerge in the city. Coming up after sports, Toronto police have made an arrest in connection with a series of deliberately set fires in Little Italy.
Oh, yeah, that's what I titled the video after, so I won't forget.
For 680 Sports.
From Sportsnet 590 The Fan, here's Alex Xero.
Where does this leave us?
Well, Jamie, he was playing at such a high level, but a broken wrist will sideline Leafs forward Wayne Simmons for at least 6 weeks.
I hope he shatters the other one on the 5th week. I hope 5 weeks from now he shatters his other one.
Health for Good brings medical and mental health care.
What do you people do instead?
Our mobile health clinics bring compassionate care to the streets of 13 communities across Canada, including here in the GTA. Learn more about our mobile health clinics at telus.com/healthforgood. Let's make the future friendly together.
Subway restaurants are pleased to announce our brand new valet service.
Really? Subway's got valet?
Subway out here does dry cleaning.
No.
You bring your dirty dry cleaning laundry to drop off at the Subway. Oh, God.
Right now, buy 2 foot-long.
Et testé encore plus à partir du moment où leur fille se suicide 20 ans avant le moment où le livre se passe en ce moment.
Alors, Louis-Miller, vous teniez à préciser dans vos notes que, comme je le disais, Tarvet Jaloun a un doctorat en psychopathologie. Qu'est-ce qui vous laisse présager que ça se sent dans ce roman-là?
Mais c'est parce que, bon, ce roman, c'est un roman psychologique par excellence. C'est un roman où le fort intérieur de l'homme, où les sentiments, même toutes les nuances de ce qu'on peut ressentir face à telle ou telle chose, sont décrits avec tant de véracité, tant de finesse, tant de maîtrise, que je crois que c'est le plus grand mérite de ce roman. Parce que, bon, l'intrigue, oui, je suis absolument d'accord avec Marc qui a dit au début que, oui, c'est un élément important, le suicide de la fille qui a exacerbé la souffrance de ce couple. Mais l'intérêt de ce roman, à mon avis, avec tout le respect que j'ai pour Ben Jaloun et pour tous ceux qui soulignent quand même cet élément tragique, qui quand même souligne la tragédie de ce roman, c'est vraiment cette façon de...
Part of the Zankin Auto Group. This is 680 News. A warning from the province's health minister today that we still have to be vigilant when it comes to fighting COVID-19. Christine Elliott says the risk remains high for the variants.
COVID-19 variants are now spreading in Ontario and remain a significant threat to controlling the pandemic in all areas of the province, including those currently with low transmission.
She says in Toronto, an individual tested positive for the Brazil variant, while there have also been variants of concern being investigated in Temiskaming and North Bay. Canada's top doctor warns COVID restrictions need to remain in place as several provinces begin relaxing their rules. In today's COVID update from the Public Health Agency, the country's Chief Medical Officer of Health says in a statement, restrictions are crucial in ensuring the country continues its downward trend in COVID cases. Dr. Teresa Tam warns there are still elevated daily case counts and high rates of infection across all age groups, and the risk remains that trends could reverse quickly. Quebec, Alberta, and Nova Scotia are relaxing their rules today, while the Ontario government is expected to start relaxing its rules later this week. As COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations continue to drop in the U.S., the Biden administration is urging states not to let down their guard.
The White House says it's been talking with state officials.
We understand the pressure the governors are under.
The virus response senior advisor Andy Slavin says the administration's communicating its concerns about some states moving to ease restrictions on dining and other social activities.
I would discourage any such activity.
CDC Director Rochelle Walensky says case numbers remain extraordinarily high. This is not the time to let up, especially with growing concern over virus variants.
We have yet to control this pandemic.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Former U.S. President Trump's second impeachment trial in the Senate set to begin tomorrow.
The House impeachment managers are expected to rely heavily on video of the January 6th Capitol riot to make their case. Former President Trump should be convicted for inciting the insurrection and barred from holding federal office in the future. The former president's legal team, on the other hand, is expected to argue the trial is unconstitutional since Trump is no longer in office. Both sides do seem to agree the trial should be quick, and at the request of one of Trump's lawyers who observes the
you can try me if I'm not even in the courtroom.
Friday evening through Saturday evening.
I stole something from somebody who's dead now. That don't matter. So
Traffic and weather together in
I don't
60
see
seconds.
how. So
Your family and business are everything. You need more than protection. You need Protection Plus. Professionally installed security solutions, including alarm systems, plus high security locks, plus security cameras, plus touchless access control, plus security window film, and more. Plus, you'll have peace of mind.
Yeah.
And that's all
glass, and the glass don't go
Get more
nowhere.
information on security solutions
away.
for your home and for your business today at protectionplus.ca. Protection Plus.
You hear what I hear about something? The glass shatters, but it don't go nowhere.
Don't go nowhere. Grand prize ever, an incredible $7 million grand prize, a $5.3 million show home built by Green Park Group with interior design by Sarah Butler.
Oh, I got these berries here too.
Lakefront Cottage and $500,000 cash. It's one big prize after another. Homes, cottages, condos, and so much more. Support one of the top 5 cancer research centers in the world. Buy now at princessmargravado.com.
What kind of seeds?
6 News Time, 2:51.
Traffic and weather together on the ones who's Carrie Prentice.
This report is brought to you by Lexus of Oakville. Westbound on the 401, approaching the 427, the 2 left lanes are blocked because of a collision. Emergency crews are on this scene, and traffic is jammed on the westbound 401 from Islington and the Express to the 427. Eastbound on the 401, a bit busy from Islington to the 400 and the Express, and we also have a collision eastbound 401 approaching Nielsen and the Express. The left lane is closed there, but I'm not seeing any delay in that area. It's pretty smooth sailing, so be careful eastbound 401 approaching Nielsen and the Express. Northbound 427, that's slow going from the 407 onto the Highway 7 ramp. We have a good drive, though, on the DVP in both directions. The Gardner is still pretty good in both directions heading into and out of downtown. Just had a call from a traffic spotter, though, at Highway 7 and Center. Eastbound traffic is reduced to a single lane. We have a truck rollover, and it's lost its load. Police are on the scene directing traffic. So, again, that's eastbound Highway 7 at Center.
What kind of truck?
Eastbound Mortimer, that is closed from Logan to Pape, all due to a broken water main. And we still have some lane restrictions at the intersection of Ellesmere and McAllen because of a collision, but only minor delays there. For a limited time, it's a 2021 Lexus RX 350 Premium Package at 1.9% for 39 months with bi-weekly payments from $278. See lexusofOakville.ca. And now with the extended forecast, here's Jill Taylor.
The cold stretch continues. Temperatures below average this week. We'll have a fair amount of sunshine for most areas today. Chance of flurries. The wind will settle down, though, through the day. The guaranteed high just -6, -9 for the low.
They gave the white people every
Early tomorrow
possible
morning,
chance.
we'll likely be dealing with
The
some
white
snow,
people
less
every
than 2
possible
centimeters.
chance to get money out of
Late
this.
tonight, should
And all
end
these other
around
different
3
things.
o'clock
Did
tomorrow
everything they
morning.
could to fuck over the
Tomorrow,
black
some early
people. They
morning
even got
flurries
us.
and sun and cloud -3, sun and cloud Wednesday -5. For today, the guaranteed high just
Proportionally,
-6.
3 times as many cases as we should have. 9% of population, 26% of the cases
Coming
reported.
up at 3, the Ford
Which is
government
more, because we're less
announcing
likely to
details of a
report.
gradual reopening
We're a lot
of the
less likely to
economy, but the
report.
city of Toronto says it'll be taking an extra
I know I'm
cautious
sick.
approach in its
I'll do
reopening.
what I can to not
because
make
of
you
not
sick,
one,
but
but
outside of that, no
3
point report
variants now in the
to
city.
the white
This
guy
is
that
60
gave us
News.
disease.
The long wait is
Oh.
over. Bayview Wellington House is back. Phase 2 of Alcona Shores at Innisfil.
Unions cut off the serve and all these other things and weird ways. They don't tell me that's all you can't have it because of this reason and that reason. They just make it impossible for me to access my account.
From the upper 500 or 32, 45,
And they're going to try and claim that they're not required to let me access my account.
from the upper 700.
The only complaint I could have is if I had lost money or something. I didn't get a payment or something. Well, here's the problem.
Reserve a spot for your private
You do
appointment at
that.
myalcona.ca.
Be the first to know
the moment it happens.
with 680 News breaking news alerts.
Powered by the Monitoring Center Home Security.
Now partnered with Tag Dispatch.
Trying to tell me I gotta call collections. Hold on a second. You can't send me the collections till we've determined I owe you
This
money.
is 680 News. Toronto police have arrested a woman in
That's
connection with a
fraudulent. You owe me
series of fires set in
$8,000.
Little Italy. There were calls to the College Street and Shaw area for reports of several fires between midnight and 2
I gotta
o'clock
send a third
yesterday morning.
motherfucker to fuck up your
42-year-old
house or
Carrie
what?
Ann Bursey
You
of
fucking
Toronto
think
is
I'm
facing
joking?
several
Did we
charges,
have this argument
including
before?
5 counts of arson and 3 counts of break and enter. Business is next.
If your head wants to plan for retirement, but your heart wants to enjoy life now, the Scotia Aria Retirement Program can help.
Because alcohol is good for you, and pills are okay. Right? It's the same people. So you wouldn't get fucking caught up in this idea that you're going to work a job you're subsidizing every day and somehow save money. That's as genius as thinking we need this pipeline to sell subsidized oil to the Americans, just like we already give them subsidized electricity in Ontario.
The 2021 signature
What do you do if we knock them transmission towers down?
Join us online
You
for the
do.
Black Diamond
Your
Gold
nuclear
fundraiser.
plant on the lake over here ain't nothing compared to ours. We got 3 of them. You got 1. Is that how that
February
works?
28th at 5 p.m.
You can see it from the 7th floor of the hospital. Clear across the lake, 90 kilometers. Probably close to 100 to that
Star-studded
angle.
performances and empowerment. Complimentary tickets at Black
Why is it lit up? To make it easy for the
Diamond
bad guys to find it.
By Rogers
I'm
Communications
assuming.
Inc., presented by Art Experiential Projects.
680 News Time, 2:56.
Now the 680 News Business Report. Here is Richard Southern.
Now, this will get rid of your case for the Mondays if you got any Slagana or record highs for Toronto and New York stocks. Yes, indeed, investors in a buying mood today as they focus on strong company earnings, on the
take 2 days off every week.
economic stimulus in the States, and as some of the COVID-19 metrics look a little bit better than they were looking, TSX right now is up
We should be calling it stimulus, 'cause it's not real.
all-time high here at 18,316. Commodity prices
That
very
wasn't
much
even that
helping.
funny. That was
Price
just
of oil has
stupid.
been in a steady
It was a smart
uptrend,
level of
and,
stupid, wasn't
Texas
it?
tea taking up another
Stimulus.
$1.12
Stimulated
today
stimulus.
to $57.97 per barrel. That's good news for the energy stocks. on Main Street.
$57.97. We're selling ours for 38. We're paying 57, and we're selling it for 38 or whatever.
680 News, and of course, you get our gas price updates every half an hour here, and we've been talking about how that price is heading higher.
They used to do the price at 3 in the afternoon, and they started doing it at midnight, which was 15 hours earlier. And these idiots for 2, 3, 4 years. It's a lot harder for us to predict the gas prices because they moved it ahead 15 hours. Sure, it's a lot harder.
The Nasdaq is up 70.
We're supposed to listen to that. Oh, I guess that's why you're
moving higher.
that's why
Tesla's
you're
up
all
to $858. The company announced this morning that it had purchased $1.5 billion of Bitcoin, and that it will allow its customers to pay for their electric cars with Bitcoin if they so choose. The price of Bitcoin hitting a record as well. Right now, it's up to $42,900 US. U.S. airline stocks are surging as documents show a proposal for more economic stimulus out of Washington could include $14 billion for the U.S. airline sector. American Airlines is up 3.9%. United up 4.5%. Delta's up 4%. Air Canada on Bay Street is lower, though. It's down 1.1% to $21.63. Still no sign of any such bailout on the way for the Canadian airline sector. All right, on to GameStop. We got to keep an eye on this. Why not? It's been quite the ride. GameStop's down 7.4% right now, $59.03 US. AMC down 11.6% at $6.04. BlackBerry is higher on Bay Street, up 12 pennies to $17.01. And we got the Canadian dollar, little change. It's at 78.46 cents US. Big announcement out of Queen's Park this afternoon. All the need-to-know details and the rest of your top stories at 3 o'clock, just moments away, right here on 680 News.
If there's one vehicle made for winter in Canada, it's a Subaru. Whether it's rain, sleet, or snow, symmetrical all-wheel drive works full-time to give you all the traction you need to be safe on the road. And if there's one dealership ready to help you through this winter, it's your local Subaru dealer. By ensuring all safety protocols are in place, we've made shopping for a Subaru as safe as driving one. Book your appointment and bring on winter safely at your nearest Subaru dealer.
What happens when you sleep well, you train well, you focus well, you eat well,
You play well. Whatever your New Year's resolution, it all starts with better sleep. And that
vous offre une vitrine pour inspirer la relève. Inscrivez-vous sur radiocanada.ca, Relève OM.
Ici Toronto, des ailes pour notre région.
Alors qu'ils font l'objet de critiques, on a réuni des snowbirds qui ont soit décidé de partir au show ou de rester au pays. Et Dominique Fessemi nous présente son nouvel album.
Pénélope, demain à 9h, Maritime 10h.
Snowbirds. I'm thinking either the planes or the old people that retired Florida. Forgot about this grape seed. I'm gonna put this plant it right now. So these mice, supposedly, the community logic, the community problem-solving system here is determined that there's a pipe leaking under the road, and that's where all these mice came from. But it's connected somehow. The city was smashing on a pipe or something. And now there are a bunch of them out there marking up the road and measuring shit. And somebody told me they're gonna shut our water off tomorrow. I didn't know that. They don't give us much notice. Please keep jamming it up, jam it up, jam it up. Now we'll do it at the top of the hour, just like the message board site. That's creative. You're doing the same thing. How many fucking days in a row are you people gonna do this shit? Seriously. Listen, I wasn't waiting for your input or interaction here. I was top of the hour and at the bottom of the hour because you're an idiot. Keep it up. Keep it up. Okay, well, we'll just start.